Welcome everyone. This video lecture is to introduce you to Child Development 210 through BYU Idaho. I will be your instructor for this semester. My name is Sister Casey Wilcox, and this first video lecture will be the longest of the semester. I'll warn you right off the bat because I like to go over extensively throughout the course on iLearn and give a lot of my feedback, my grading policies, other policies for the course. So you have all that information up front. You are held responsible for the information included in this video lecture. As an instructor, I do not require students to meet at a specific time each week or bi-weekly. Rather, I record lectures and you watch them on your own time. The only caveat with that is that you are required to watch them, and as I said earlier, you're required and held responsible for the information contained in them. So you can't come back and complain that you didn't understand it or that you didn't acknowledge that it was stated. So for this video lecture, we're going to dive right in. First, I'm just going to give a brief introduction to who I am and then my family, but the bulk of this video lecture will be spent on the course and a plethora amount about the course. And we'll walk through iLearn. I'll show you what I can as far as assignments and where to locate things and go from there. So a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Sister Wilcox. I live outside Houston, Texas. We're about an hour south. If you followed anything with the weather this last fall, our community was hit very hard by the flooding that came about a week after Harvey, Hurricane Harvey. And so our neighborhood, we are one of about 10 homes that did not flood. Thankfully, we came about an inch away from it. So we have been surrounded by families and homes that have been just devastated by the flooding. And as well as within our ward and our stake, several areas were hit hard. But that gives you a little bit of perspective of where we are located, just directly south of Houston. We've lived here coming up on 5 years now. Moved here when my husband took a job with a chemical company as an engineer in town. I joined the church when I was 18, back when I lived in Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. You'll hear my accent often throughout the course. But I joined the week I graduated high school, and through a friend that introduced the church to me up in Wisconsin. For my educational background, I started at Utah State, and then after a year I transferred to BYU. I completed my undergraduate degree in recreational therapy, and then I completed my master's degree through the University of Southern Mississippi in family and child studies. And then shortly after completing my degree, I've been teaching for BYU Idaho now for just over 2 years. Aside from education, my work experience as far as child development and how it relates to that, I was a program director at a YMCA camp, a day camp for 5 years. And so I facilitated our summer programming, and then in the off season during the school year, I worked in preparation for the next summer. So it was a 365-day job in either preparing for the next summer or running that summer's programming. Then in Utah, I worked at a treatment center, a residential treatment center, so children at risk from ages 8 to 14. And I worked with the recreation department in helping develop coping skills for the children to better cope with some of the obstacles that they were facing, some of the behaviors that they were experiencing, and things like that. Then now, I guess, I work for BYU Idaho, but then I stay home with our children as my main job. These are a couple pictures of me with my family. We rep the Y in this house. My 4-year-old daughter knows the fight song, backwards, forwards, every which way. This is my family. It was just my daughter at the time when I graduated with my master's in Mississippi. And then this is when my husband and I went back to Spain. It's where he served his mission. So we had the opportunity to go back to Barcelona right before our son was born. A little bit about my family. My husband and I met at BYU in 2010, and we married at the end of that year in the Manti Temple in Utah. We have 2 children. So there's some pictures of us. we have 2 children. Here's our 4-year-old daughter, Ashton, and then here's our son, Tanner, who will be 2 in 2 weeks, well, next week, I guess. And some pictures. It snowed outside Houston in our backyard. We got about 2 inches, which is a lot, considering it's never snowed. The last snowfall that stayed was about 13 years ago. So it happens about every 10 to 15 years, and our kids loved it. We didn't have any warm clothes, but they loved it. And then we're expecting our 3rd. We're having a little girl in March, and I will notify you as that gets closer as far as what will happen with the course. With my son, I was teaching when he was born, and there was, other than the brief hospital stay, I was able to respond to emails within the 24 hours, which is what the policy is at BYU Idaho. So I do not anticipate any delay in the course, but if something happens or something goes wrong with the delivery, then I will, of course, notify you about that. So that's a little bit about me and about my family. We're busy with them. Our kids keep us on our toes, but it's a wonderful opportunity to teach child development every semester, because I'm reminded of why my 4-year-old is doing this, or why my son is acting this way, and what I can do as a parent and as a caregiver to help facilitate healthy development at their appropriate ages. So let's dive right into the course. We're going to cover 4 different elements. So one is how the course is organized. You're going to see quickly this course is organized a little bit differently than other online courses through BYU Idaho, and I'll explain a little bit about why. Then we'll go over my course policies, as well as the generic overarching policies. Then we'll go into iLearn, and we're going to look at all the assignments. I'm going to give you an overview. I'm not going to get into detail about each unit's assignments, because that will come at a later time. But as far as what each assignment looks like, what I'm looking for, things like that. And then lastly, we'll go over some helpful hints. All right, so as I mentioned, this course is organized a little bit differently. This semester is the first time we are doing weekly due dates. Prior to that, it was unit due dates. So with that, it's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to it as well as the students. But this course is organized into units. So let me go into iLearn, and let me change it so it's your view. This should be what you see as a student. So under content, you'll notice that it has Unit 1, Unit 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are 5 units. Each of them cover a different developmental stage. So for the first unit, we're looking at theories and the prenatal development, as it says right here. Unit 2 is infant, pretty much 0 to 3 is the age range we work on. Unit 3 is 3 to about 6 or 7. Then we have middle childhood from about 6, 7 to 12 years of age. And then Unit 5 will be adolescent development from 12, 13 to 18 years of age. So that's how we group the units according to age and development. In each unit, we study, just as the textbook outlines, the biological development, the social psycho development, and the cognitive development. So you'll notice, like in Unit 2, you have biosocial, cognitive, and psychosocial. So there are the 3 areas of development that we'll cover. With each unit, inside each unit, though, is chapters, which will correlate with the textbook. And then the assignments are always going to be listed under the last chapter. So right here, you'll see the Dear Abby letters and the reflective journals. How it used to be is that you had assignments due for each unit at the end of 2.5 weeks. So every 2.5 weeks, there was a huge load of assignments due, and then 2.5 weeks, another unit with more assignments. This semester, we're doing it by week. So if you go into the Welcome tab, and a schedule, and I have emailed this out and it will be emailed again. There is the schedule of what is due. So I recommend that you print this, you save it, you have it somewhere accessible at all times so that you can be reminded about what's due. It breaks it down. So week 1, which is from January 8th, the start of the semester, through Saturday, January 13th at midnight Mountain Standard Time. So for those living outside of the Mountain West, you'll need to alter that. You need to do the Unit 1 Collaborative Quest initial post. Then week 2, which will start after the 13th, and I recommend that we don't, that you choose to use the Sabbath day as worship and as relaxing and rejuvenating. I do not check emails or do work on Sundays, and I recommend to my students that they follow that with not doing academics. So Monday the 15th through Saturday the 20th, you're reading these 2 chapters in the text, you're doing these few assignments. And then the 3rd week, here are the assignments listed. So these assignments in the right-hand column are always due the Saturday at midnight of that week mentioned. And I have the dates right in line here, and it goes all the way through the semester through the final exam. So it breaks it down a little bit, hopefully a little bit easier for students. Again, this is the first semester that we're trying it this way, so I appreciate patience, but I also appreciate feedback, both positive and negative. If it's working for you, if it's not, what could we tweak for future semesters? But bear with us as we work through that. Then let's get into the course assignments. You'll see the course assignments listed here. The wonderful part about this course is that each unit has the same exact assignments. So once we work through Unit 1, the remaining 4 units are the same assignments, just different topics that we're discussing. And so it helps keep it streamlined so that future units will make more sense. Typically, the first unit is where we have the most hiccups, the most questions, and then you guys are smooth sailing throughout the semester. So Unit 1, how this course works is that you work through it page by page. So you're going to start with Unit 1, and you start here, Chapter 1, Introduction. You read this, it tells you what you're going to be learning about, then you click Next, and this is my recommendation. You go page by page. There's the learning objectives, which you don't need to answer. You'll answer them. Then it gives instructions where it says read, and it says to read these pages, and a journal question. These journal questions belong to the reflective journal assignment, which is due for every unit. You find the journal questions listed here, but there is also a Word document with the journal questions that I will show you in a few minutes, that you can download the Word document, and all the journal questions are provided for the entire chapter. And then there's a space for you to give your reply. So you do not need to copy and paste from here, from the screen. You can, but it's easier if you wait to open the document. And then you continue. Then it asks you to do a collaborative quest discussion. This is due, if you couldn't recall, let me actually pull up. Sorry, give me a moment, guys. Pull up the schedule so that we have that for reference. Spring. Here it is. Sure. Okay, so you'll notice that week 1, you read all the assignments and you do the Unit 1 collaborative quest. And that is what this is, collaborative quest discussion. It's asking you to provide an introduction to those of you who are in the course with you. In other words, you will learn how to use the discussion board by posting a little bit about yourself along with the pictures so that we can get to know you better. So basically, it's an introduction. Whatever you want to share with the class, everyone will see this, and you'll post to that. Then once you finish, so that's all it's due for the first week. But once you do that, then you can continue on with Unit 1. And you just go step by step here, page by page. Where you find all the assignments, where you find all the assignments, there's two areas. One is the discussions tab. This is another way, so say you just come onto iLearn, you don't want to go through the content and scroll all those pages and find where the discussion board is. You can click discussions in the top menu, and then they'll list all the unit discussions, but you can click on Unit 1, and you click on Start a New Thread. You cannot see others' posts until you make your initial post, your first post. So you start a new thread and you write your introduction, you post it, and then you can see your groups. The other assignment, so we went over the collaborative quest, the discussion board. You'll have that for each unit. The topic will change. The reading quizzes. So at the end of each chapter, and we were getting there when we were going page by page. So here we go. We were right here. It invites you to read these pages and answer a general question. Then we keep going. It invites you to read some more pages and some videos with a journal question. I'm just working to get to the end of the chapter so you can see a reading quiz. All right, here comes the reading check. So once you complete reading the entire chapter, it's going to have you take a reading check. These questions are directly from the textbook company, and that's why it's highly recommended that you have the 10th edition because things have changed significantly from the 9th edition, and so some questions may not be in the 9th edition, so you need to have the 10th. These come directly from the text. Reading checks are limited to 20 minutes, so you won't have tons of time to search for every answer if you have not read the pages. You can take the reading checks up to 3 times, and iLearn will automatically take your highest score, but you are limited to the 20 minutes each. Another area to access these is through quizzes. So you click on quizzes at the top, and there is reading checks for all the chapters, all the way through 16, as well as the final exam, and also with the due dates. So if you just want to log on and go right to the quizzes and complete them, then you can go through the quiz tab. Then the other assignments are listed. Let me go back here. So the Dear Abby letters, the reflective journal, and the observations and development are going to be in 2 locations. They're going to be listed under the chapter that correlates with that week's assignments. So here's the observations and development, and then under chapter 4 is the Dear Abby and the reflective journal. The easier way of accessing these is through the assignments tab that I just clicked on right up here. And then you see the 3 written assignments. So you can click on observations and development. And this is where you will submit it directly. So if you're ready to submit, you log in, you can go right to assignments. But to understand what it's asking you to do and where the document is, you will need to look at that under Unit 2 or Chapter 2. So you download a study guide, and this is the same for all 5 units, and it's going to ask you some questions on the study guide. Typically, it has some videos for you to watch. The purpose of this observation and development assignment is for you to see development in reality. It's one thing to read about it in a textbook and to study it and to know all the theories and the ages and what milestones you're looking for, but it's completely different to see it in real life and to apply it to a child, to look at a child and say they have this type of development or this is their identity status. And so you answer these questions. It changes for every unit, obviously. This assignment is worth 25 points. Typically, if you have a a mistake or something that's wrong, it's a few points off. There's no set points for how many points per question. But typically, most students, if they answer them correctly, do very well on this assignment. Then the Dear Abby and Reflective Journal. Let me go over the Reflective Journal. We've gone through that a little bit when you saw all those journal questions when we worked through Chapter 1. So as I said, you can download the Unit 1 file, and this is the same for all units. And then here are it will open up a document. That has the same questions. So as I mentioned earlier, it has the question 1 from that first page that we looked at, and then you can type the answer right in here, and then save it and submit. Do not submit this assignment until all 28 questions are answered. There's a different number of questions for every unit, so it does change a little bit as far as the workload, but this is the format that you would follow for that. Okay, and then the Dear Abby letters are in here as well with Chapter 4. And Dear Abby letters, where this derives from is writing a Dear Abby column in a newspaper, which if you're not familiar with that, just Google search it and you'll find it. But Dear Abby letters or Dear Abby column is where readers of that newspaper can write in with a problem they're facing and then get advice from Abby. So they would write, Dear Abby, my in-laws are coming for Christmas and I don't know how to do such and such. What would you do? And then sincerely, whatever. And then Abby would write back, Dear so-and-so, this is what I recommend. So that's sort of the format of where this is coming from. So when you open this Dear Abby assignment in each unit, you'll have parents, caregivers, educators asking questions about child development, and then your response needs to answer them. There are several letters provided in each document, but you need to pick 3 from each chapter. So they'll say, let me load up the PDF here. And there is a Word document too, but they'll say Chapter 2, letters 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 for Chapter 2. You need to pick 3, any 3 from Chapter 4. Then Chapter 3, you'll notice right here, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're misnumbered. Sorry about that. 5. And you pick 3. So there's 9 total letters that you respond to. There is a minimum word requirement for all units on this assignment. This is the only assignment that has a minimum word requirement. It is set at 2,200 words, cumulative, which means that includes the initial letter that you're responding to and your response. So you have 2 aspects there. And it is for the entire assignment, all 9 letters, the entire Word document, not each answer. There is no maximum word count, but if you do not meet the minimum word count, points will be deducted. So that's an overview of Dear Abby. Once Unit 1 starts, I'll go into, there's another video lecture that I'll make that goes into Unit 1 in more detail. So this is just an overview of what the assignment is. That covers all the 5 areas of assignments in this course. Once we start with Unit 1, it will most likely hopefully make more sense to you. And so we'll get into that next week. All right, for my course policies, the first is late work. I do accept late work. However, for each day that you turn it in late, 10% is automatically deducted from the score, up to 5 days late. So I will only accept late work 5 days past the due date. So if you do that, the highest score you could get was 50%. This is mainly so that I have time to grade and then submit grades according to BYU Idaho online policy. I do have an extension that I allow. I understand that kids get sick, life gets crazy, you get sick, work gets busy, whatever the case may be. And so each student can use an extension one time during the semester on one due date. So on a Saturday midnight due date, one time each semester. What this extension gives you is an extra 5 days to complete that due date. My only caveat with this is that it sounds wonderful and you use it, but then typically students struggle to get the next week's assignments turned in because they're still playing catch up from the week before. So you need to have caution when you do use it, that you also need to stay on top of the current week's due dates, that it doesn't bump everything back for you. Grading and feedback. I do provide feedback on written assignments, and then I also make comments in the discussion boards. I will grade all assignments within 7 days of the due date. That is BYU Idaho policy, and I stick to it. Typically, I am able to get them done before that, but just so you know that it is graded within 7 days. If you don't see a grade within 7 days, email me because I most likely graded it and didn't update the scores on the student aspect of things. So if I miss a step, sometimes students can't see their grades, so I can go in and fix that. Proofreading. We are a college course and I expect college writing. If I open an assignment and it is difficult for me to read and understand what you are writing, I will deduct points. More than 3 errors in an assignment and I will start deducting a point per error. Now, I am not an English major. I still struggle with when to use semicolons and commas and punctuation, just like the rest of us. And that's fine. I'm not going to look through your assignment with a fine-tooth comb. What I mean is that if I pull up your assignment in Word and all of a sudden I see all these little red squiggly lines because there's tons of misspelled words or you're using text language, shortened language, then I'm going to have an issue with it. I'll grade accordingly, and that will be your warning to fix it for future assignments. The last course policy I have, and it hurts me that I have to bring this up. Each of us are BYU Idaho students and faculty, and we follow an honor code. Part of the honor code is that we agree to be honest in our academic lives. If you cheat or plagiarize on an assignment, you will receive a 0 for that assignment. If it happens again, you will fail the class. It does not matter how many other points you have or how many other assignments you have to make it up, you will fail. We, as instructors for Child 210, have had a few semesters recently of multiple students in each course cheating and not honoring the academic honesty portion of the honor code, and those students did fail. So I recommend that you begin the semester with doing your own work and ensure that it's your own work. If you use information from the textbook or from another website, that's fine, but you need to put quotations around it and you need to cite the source. If you're going to copy and paste a paragraph from the textbook or from another resource online and fail to add your own information, your own opinion, or quotations in a citation, then I will mark it as plagiarism, and you will receive a 0 for the course, or a 0 for the grade for that assignment, and if it happens again, a 0 for the course. Being a student at a BYU school is an honor, is a privilege, and as such, you need to follow the honor code. With grading, how this works, the Dear Abby letters are worth 50 points each. With 9 letters, it comes out to be roughly 5 points a letter. So if you miss one or there's wrong information in a response, and that's sort of how I do that. The reflective journals are also worth 50 points, and it just depends on the question as far as how many points it's worth. Typically, most of them are worth 2-3 points apiece. That's the average. Some are worth a little bit more. For example, if it asks you to list 4 details about teenage suicide, which we'll get to in Unit 5, that question is most likely worth 4 points because it's asking you to name 4 things. So that's where that comes from. Observations and development, as I discussed earlier, is 25 points. most of the time it's all or nothing for students. Either they completed it and they did it well and they get 25 points, or they didn't turn it in. That's typically where I see the two sides. The discussion board. So with the discussion board, you make your initial post, and then the other aspect of it is for you to add 2 responses to your peers another week in the unit. So if you're late to your initial post, you lose 2 points. If you fail to respond to 2 of your peers, you lose 5 points, because that is half the assignment. It's worth 10 points total. And if your responses are not substantial, meaning you respond saying, "That sounds great," or "What a wonderful idea," and that's all you write, you lose 3 points. I'm sorry, this should be points, not posts. So just keep that in mind. All right, some helpful hints. My biggest one is that this is not a course to procrastinate. And I don't know if there is a course at BYU Idaho that you can procrastinate in and do fine, but this one is not one of them. So stay ahead. Like I said, print off that schedule, mark it down in your phone or your planner, whatever you do, you use for organization to have those dates set. Use this first week of the course when we don't have a ton of assignments due to read through all the instructions, to try to understand how iLearn works if you haven't used it before, so that as we progress through the semester that you're not, that those aren't obstacles to you. Just a reminder of the minimum word count. Ask questions early and often. Email me. You can text me. You can call me. I love talking to students on the phone. The only issue with a phone call is I do have a 4 and a loud almost 2-year-old. And so often my phone call times are when they're napping or after bed. And so if it's an immediate response that you need something right then and there, a text is probably the easiest. Even if it's a text saying, "I need help, please call me ASAP," then I can shovel my kids outside and have them go play for a few minutes while I call you. But I just typically am not able to answer my phone at the first time someone's calling me. I do recommend that you have active participation in the discussion boards. This takes the place of an on-campus setting where we're in a room together and can discuss matters. And so students get the most out of this course when they're active in the discussion boards. I can do office hours. We can meet through Zoom just like this, face-to-face, or if you don't have a webcam, at least with microphones. And that's an easy way to work through. I can share my screen with you, you can share your screen, and I can help work through assignments or glitches that way. But again, that takes a little bit of prep time to schedule it, or else you would have 2 monkeys in my screen as well. Then video updates. We use a lot of YouTube videos in the course. If one of them does not work, please email me right away so that I can find a replacement for a replacement for that unit. That is one struggle that we have with technology, is it's always changing, and I try and catch them to the best of my ability, but every now and then it changes the day after I tested it and the students aren't able to view it. So email me, but you are always required to respond to the questions. So I do not accept work that says the video did not work and then you don't answer the question. What you need to do is contact me and I will replace it within that same day so that you can complete the assignment in its entirety. Communication. So here is just an overview about how I try to communicate with you. So first I will post a weekly, most of the time it will be a weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, just depending on what units we're covering, video lecture. This will provide an overview of the unit, of what we're doing that week, any helpful information for the assignments that are due, as well as how the course connects to our lives. I will also be on the discussion boards regularly, several times a week. And as I mentioned, I have office hours as needed, and you can email, call, or text me with questions. With that, here's the contact information. It is also available, on iLearn. And it's also sent in an email. So you have plenty of ways to get a hold of me. But if you go to overview, there is my phone number, my email, as well as the Zoom um, office, virtual office that we have. So that concludes a little bit of a rundown of this unit. If you're feeling overwhelmed, please write down whatever questions you have, or if you just don't even know where to start with questions, send me an email. We can meet through Zoom. We can meet and talk about it and go over iLearn a little bit better, and go over the assignments. I do typically students sort of struggle that first week or two in all classes. I remember as a student, it was that first week or two getting used to the instructor and the expectations and the assignments, and several of you have multiple classes that you're doing as well. So bear with me, bear with yourself, have a little bit of patience, and I guarantee by mid-January we will be smooth sailing through this course. But again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call or ask. And I am happy to help you. Good luck, everyone. Welcome to the class.